Hey guys, it's Jake here with eTrailer. Today we have a 2023 Ford Escape and we're going to be taking a look at and I'm going to show you how to install the Roadmaster diode wiring kit. Adding diode wiring to your Escape is going to allow you to safely get the lighting signals from your motorhome to the back of your taillights. This is going to be one of your three options, your main three options to getting lighting to the back of your vehicle while you're flat towing your vehicle behind your motorhome. The other two options are going to be the magnetic lights, which I'm sure you've seen, that you stick up on top of your vehicle, you run a 4-pole wire up to the front bumper, and then you plug it into the back of your motorhome. Those lights are okay. I don't really like sticking anything to my vehicle because if it is dirty, you will have scratches on your vehicle when you take those on and off. Another option, which is not going to be an option for this particular taillight, which would be bulb and socket. That requires you to drill a hole in the back of the taillight and then insert a bulb and socket with a separate LED or a separate bulb, a light bulb, to give you the signals. To me, those are kind of outdated. They're a lot more difficult to get installed in these LED taillights because there's a whole motherboard back here that will actually send the lighting signals wherever in the light that you need it. So the bulb and socket's not going to be an option for this, and I think the diodes are a much better option than going with the magnetic lights. Now the way that this kit's going to work is the diodes will be installed behind your taillights, and with this particular model we found out that it is much easier to access the back of the taillight from inside the car. Typically we're able to just take a couple of screws off and pop the taillight out, but this part of the fascia is actually clipped into the bottom of the taillight. So we went through in behind, and that's where you will mount your diodes in line with your factory wires for whichever function you're looking for. And the functions we're going to be tying into today are going to be your stop and turn, which will be the same wire, and your running light signal. You're going to have one diode per wire, and essentially you're going to run it in line, so you have to cut those wires. Don't let that scare you when it comes to installing this kit, because once you reinstall them and then install the get your 4-pole wired up, which you'll have to run back here. We'll show you how to do all that stuff, but the diodes themselves are going to be the key component in this, because the diodes are going to be designed to protect the wiring on the vehicle along with protecting the wiring on the motorhome. They are designed to not have any feedback, not short anything out, and they will essentially protect the whole system and allow you to do what you're trying to do safely. When you're picking out a kit, you want to pick out a kit that matches up with your tow bar. So for example, we have the Roadmaster Nighthawk tow bar here. That is going to come with its own 6-pole pigtail. That's a 6 to 7 pole for your RV side. It's run in these lower channels. It's a great tow bar. But if you pick up the diode wiring kit, you don't need to get the one with the pigtail. That is this red wire here. You don't need the pigtail and you don't need the 6-pole because the Roadmaster Nighthawk is going to come with both of those. So just be wary of that when you're looking at different kits. The kit that we installed today is going to be the one without the cable because we have them here. But if you don't already have a tow bar or you have a different brand that you're looking at, definitely look into whether or not it comes with the 6 to 7 pole wiring and if it has a 6-pole with it. Charge line that you add to your 6-pole, it'll connect up, it'll have a circuit breaker that attaches to your battery. You'll tie that in, and this is going to allow the motorhome to charge the vehicle's battery slowly while you're going down the road, because what's going to happen is the braking system that is mounted in this vehicle is going to use the vehicle's battery power. And what that means is that if you're not charging the battery on the vehicle, the braking system is using the power, so you're not getting any more from anywhere else. So what can happen is when you get to where you're going, you could have a dead battery, and we'd hate to see you have that. We've had people do that before. They go on a long trip, and when they get there, their battery's drained, their vehicle will not start. They have to jump it, put it on a charger, all that kind of stuff. So putting a charge line on is never a bad idea. There are some vehicles that do not require a charge line. However, I would highly recommend it when you're installing all of this stuff. When it comes to getting this kit installed, this is not going to be a very difficult installation at all. I'd say probably the hardest part, which is most cases for this kit, is getting that 4-pole wire run from the front of your vehicle to the back. But hopefully with my guidance, you'll be able to get it from front to back pretty easily. The Ford Escape sits high enough off the ground to where you can lay underneath. We're going to use a lift to get it installed so we can show you that much clearer. To begin our installation, we're going to need to run our 4-pole wire from the front of our vehicle to the back. What I'll end up doing is I'm going to tie off to our tow loop here because we're going to eventually need to tie it into our 6-pole, which will be located right here on our tabs. If you have a different base plate, this might differ a little bit, but essentially you just want to tie it off somewhere up here, leave yourself enough slack, and we're going to run it up into the engine bay, back down, run it along the frame rail, or in it if we can get inside of it and run it to the back. I'm going to go ahead and run this wire, and we'll come back and show you the path that we took. Now we took our wire, tied it off right here. You just want enough length so that you have enough to connect it to your 6-pole here. We ran it up behind the base plate, up into our engine bay. Want to tie it off. This is our hood release cable, so we just tied it off here and then ran it down and out of our wheel well. Ran it up, over. We just lowered this panel by removing a pushpin fastener at the front and a pushpin fastener at the back. And you'll have a couple of 10mm nuts that you'll have to remove too. But you can see we ran it up inside this panel all the way back. You want to tie it off, zip tie it off to anything that you can find. You just want to keep it away from anything hot or moving. But we ran it up over the frame so that you can keep it away from the axle. So once you get it up over the axle, keep it away from the springs. Zip tied it off to one last set of holes in our frame right here. And then we're going to now go up to the top, take our taillight out, and fish wire it up into the taillight housing. Normally what we would do is we would go into the backs of our taillights and just simply pop the taillights out of our vehicle. But with the way that Ford designed these, it's very difficult to get these taillights removed. And that is because the rear fascia here, this whole bumper section, is going to snap into the taillight. So you'd have to remove the whole bumper just to get the taillight out. So to avoid some of that work, as you can see that some of the back of our vehicle is torn apart here. What you need to do is you need to take this skid plate out, and it's just going to have a T25 Torx bit under each of the tie downs in the back here, and then it'll have a 7mm screw here, and those will be on the face on the inside down by the spare tire. So you pop that out, and then you can take both of your panels here and just pull them in. It was not very difficult to get these pulled in at all. You just take the panel on the side, start at the bottom, and just pop it out. And that's where we're at right now. And then back here, there's a harness. This comes originally with some black tape over it, but in order to test the wiring, I've had to pull it off. The connector is right down here. So if you pop this plug out of this connector, you can test your stop and turn signals and your running lights. And we discovered that our stop and turn is going to be the red wire, and the running lights is going to be our green wire. Now this grommet down here, you should be able to just pop it right out, and underneath, it's a straight shot down to where our wiring was left off. So we ran our wiring up through that hole. I'm just going to cut a small slit in this grommet.
This is going to end up getting motion sickness, and I'm not sorry.
Now because this is such a tight space behind here, I'm just going to go ahead and get each diode wired up, and I'll stop in between each one and show you the wires and how you're going to connect them to your diodes. Now you can see we've got our one diode hooked up to the red wire. This is going to be our stop and turn, so you want to use the yellow wire in your 4-pole wiring harness with it. The only thing you want to make sure is when you cut the red wire, you want to make sure that the out on the diode is going out to the taillight, which is going to be the upper portion. And then the other portion of the red is going to go down to the plug, and then the plug will go back to the rest of the vehicle. You will also want to make sure that the yellow is on the other end. Now for our running light signal, we'll be using the brown wire from our 4-pole. You're going to tap into the green wire just like we did with the stop and turn. Again, you want to make sure the out is going back up to the taillight, and that the in is going to be your inlet for the signal and the brown wire. Now you'll notice in your kit you'll get a spade terminal that is a little bit larger and it's yellow in color. That is because you'll need to tie 2 brown wires into it, one that's running up from the bottom, and then you'll take any excess wire that you had and splice it in with that, and we'll need to run that over to the passenger side of our vehicle along with our green wire. For the green wire, you can use one of the yellow butt connectors that comes in your kit, or you can use a heat shrink one like we did, and just again use that extra green wire that you have at the end of your length, and we'll run it over to the passenger side, and now we can get those diodes wired in. You'll see we did the same thing. Your The colors of wires that you're going to use corresponding with the wires from our 4-pole are going to be the same wires. The red will be for your stop and turn, and the green will be for your running lights. On the passenger side, you'll still want to use the brown for the running light signal, and you'll want to use the green for the stop and turn signal. So get those diodes wired up. You want to take your white wire, strip it back, put the ring terminal on that comes in your kit, and then ground it to your frame. Now to get our plug wired up so that we can put it on the front of our vehicle, in this order from the top of the plug, you can see our door opens like this. Going counterclockwise, we're going to have brown, white, then yellow, then green. This one's going to be for a brake signal. You'll leave that one bare. And then the center post is going to be for your battery charge line. Now to finish up our plug, we're going to take some RTV silicone and go around each one of these terminals. This will help to prevent corrosion later on or any wires that may want to cross. Once you get that loaded up, you can take your boot, slide it back over. Then we can take the screws that come in your kit and get it attached to our base plate tabs. Now we'll go ahead and run through our signals to make sure that our diodes are working properly. We'll start off with our right turn, brake lights, left turn, and tail lights. Now that we know our diodes are working properly, we're going to go ahead and put our vehicle back together. That's going to do it for installation. Hopefully this video helped you decide whether or not the Roadmaster diode wiring kit is right for you and your 2023 Ford Escape.